your hour. It's my hour. It's our hour. It's the flower hour. It's your hour. It's my hour. It's our hour. It's
the first of its kind. The Plunge.
Record too much with Andrew and Sarah to...
Oh, you know these microphones then.
These microphones and protecting them and...
Protecting them. I'm not too worried about it, honestly. If you break it, you break it. It's not the end of the world.
I'm having trouble.
But, like, don't break it, you know? I turned the volume down because I feel like with all the wind and whatnot, it's probably the play. Are you undoing that whole thing?
Is that what I supposed to? I wasn't supposed to do that?
Oh, no, you literally just slip it out.
So I don't know these very well.
Yeah.
I was like, how did you do that so fast? And I'm over here struggling.
Yeah, that's what we do. We struggle, dude. That's what we're doing in the cold plunge.
That's what we're doing.
Are you an avid cold plunger?
I would say so. I have already hit a round this morning at Embrace North.
How about you?
So I start my days Monday through Thursday at Yoakum Strength from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And then across the parking lot is Embrace North. So instead of going home and making an excuse on how I couldn't make it back, I was just like, every day I'm going to go to Yoakum's, right over to Embrace North, and then shower, and my day's begun. By 9 o'clock, I'm out the door.
What are you got an ant on your hand, left hand.
Oh, that's cool.
Blow it away. Oh, you're so gentle. I love it. What are the benefits of cold plunging? Do you know? What does this do for you? Because you kind of, we're just sitting in a cold tub. It's kind of like, if you were an alien and you came to Earth and you saw people sitting in a cold, like, water for fun, you might be like, what are these idiots doing?
I think the people who sit in cold plunge or ice baths are safe from feeling like the aliens will judge us for being idiots on the type of stuff that goes on outside of the cold tub. So the benefits, I am the least knowledgeable person in terms of, like, what are the health benefits of cold plunge or what are the health benefits of running. I just know what I like, and I see enough people who have done that research talk about it that I trust. And one of the things that I've noticed is I made a transition this winter with the help of a friend, Vinny Nigro. He's Vinny Nigro. He played rugby at St. Thomas, graduated this year as a Yoakum Strength guy. But when we would go in the morning, he would get in the cold, and I would start in the sauna. And making that transition to starting in the cold was really challenging. It's almost like every day I go in there. Now I understand why people are like, no, every day is hard. Because
you have to start
if you start in the cold, it's hard every single time.
It's so hard, yeah.
If you start in the sauna and then go in the cold, you've robbed yourself of that, like, mental challenge of getting over. So I think one of the main benefits that I see that I don't want to get too comfortable with is doing something hard, no matter what level on the scale it is, and doing it anyway. But I think, we can talk about this later on, but, like, when you do something hard consistently, it no longer becomes hard. And so I think we can convince ourselves that maybe, like, something else that you're avoiding and using this hard to avoid is actually stunting the growth.
So you mean, like, doing something hard in a comfortable way?
So,
like, if I'm doing something that's, like, seems hard, like, I'm kind of half sitting in the cold plunge right now, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I'm kind of doing something hard, but not, like, really pushing it. Is that what you're saying?
So how often do you come out here in cold tub?
I mean, how cold is this also? This isn't like a cold tub, right?
Yeah.
This is groundwater.
Right.
I'm not I like the splash of a cold plunge after a sauna and pre-sauna.
Yeah.
Like, so I can sit in there for 20 minutes. But I'm not like an avid cold plunger. I know that increases your blood circulation and helps with inflammation, and like there are a lot of benefits
for
to
sure.
plunging, but I'm so big on like going your own speed.
Me
and
too.
like if something's comfortable, do it to your comfortability. Otherwise you're going to burn yourself out.
For sure.
But like there's people like you where you're a pretty tenacious person. So it's like you want to go all in on everything, right? Like when you're going to run from Chicago to Canada, or you're going to do the Calendar Club Challenge, you're going to do it 1000%.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, that's, I guess, just in my personality and in my nature, and that's something that I feel called to do. I think what I mean by, if you were to do this every single day, at a certain point you would get used to the consistency of it.
Right.
And so if you don't push yourself outside of that, and just, like for me, running 50 miles or doing going out and running, let's just say something as simple as like a 3-mile run today.
Yeah.
That wasn't challenging for us, right?
Mm-mm.
If we never went past that point and we always held on to the belief that I'm doing something hard, that's where I see it coming into, like, it can pose as a negative in your life. So I think finding a way to push yourself at, like you said, at your pace.
Right.
I'm a big do it at your pace type of guy.
Yeah.
But I think finding ways to incrementally grow and push yourself outside of that comfort space, because that's all we do. Like when we're sitting in here right now without the water moving, our body is naturally putting a warm glow around it.
Isn't that funny?
And so
That's
our body
crazy.
is trying to get us back into a comfortable space.
Right.
And so are you willing to move the water around? Are you willing to go for a 5-mile run? Like that's
Right.
what I'm talking about.
And there probably is some burnout in comfort too.
For sure.
Like when you just go 3 miles, like that gets boring.
Yeah.
After a certain amount of time, you may be able to sustain it longer than like incrementally, increasing your mileage. But yeah, I think there's definitely burnout in comfort. This might be a left field question, but we were talking about running. What's the longest run you've done in one actual run?
One actual go. So I'll remove the like run to Chicago or run to Windsor because it's over the course of weeks.
Right.
So it's not like one continuous run. This May I was in a last person standing event in Wausau, the Wausau Ultra.
That was nuts.
And that's a 4 mile an hour, every hour on the hour until there's one person left. I think we had 75 runners start. So the race ends when there's only one person left.
Yeah.
And I won that race, and it was 142 miles over 34 hours. So as far as like continual running, I would say that's probably the farthest that I've gone.
That's an hour on, hour off?
So it's you have 1 hour to complete the lap. So the race starts at 10 a.m. You have to finish that 4.176 mile loop in the hour. So I would finish my loops in about 52 minutes, which gave me 8 minutes or 7 minutes and 59 seconds to rest, recover, eat, change my socks before I had to get back to that start line to start that next 4 mile loop for that next hour.
That is way different from what I thought it was.
Yeah. It's not like the Goggins challenge where you're like running 4 hours and then off 4 hours or hour on, hour off. No, it's continuous throughout.
Yeah, that's continuous. But you kept posting like you were laying down, and obviously that was probably the only time you were on your phone.
Yeah.
Too.
And I had help from my girlfriend Lucy. She was helping. I was like, "Can you do this?
Yeah, please help.
I'm handing this over to you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a saint.
Yeah, she is a saint.
Okay, so for a guy like you that is, running around, you're doing, what seems to be a zillion different things. Like you got all these different challenges, you're running in these races, you're running from Chicago to Ontario, you're doing the Calendar Club. Is there ever a piece of you that wants to settle down?
All the time. All the time. I run into a strange contradiction of when so I've been back for a month, and luckily I've been able to keep myself occupied with some other projects, but usually when I'm home, I'm like, man, I want to get back out there. And then when I'm out there, I'm like, man, just like a normal shower in a bed tonight would be a blessing. So I do find myself in a grass is greener on the other side approach sometimes, but that usually comes when I haven't slept or haven't gone out for a run and I'm not thinking straight. But I've gone through periods of my life where I haven't pursued something greater than myself, and that thought and that feeling of just feeling stuck. And there's moments, a moment happened during this last run to Windsor where I met two people in their 70s. They were biking from Oregon to Boston, Doug and Joni, and they were on a tandem bike together, and they were riding across the country for cancer. And I rode the ferry over with them, then got a beer at the brewery in town with them, and there was this whole cool story wrapped up around it. And it's like those moments, I would have never met them if I wasn't in that environment, if I didn't put myself in that position. And so I try and take that perspective of, I get to meet all these incredible people. Like, the fact that we're sitting here is an incredible opportunity. And we just, I want to continue to embrace that and find that and try and hold myself back of being like not in need in a search of that, because I think there's a never-ending hole in that as well.
Yeah, and you can be endlessly creative.
Endlessly.
So it's like you kind of want those opportunities to come to you.
Yes.
Rather than you going and achieving. Can you explain the Calendar Club Challenge and what it is?
Yes. Yeah, so Calendar Club,
this is my wife.
traditionally is running the number of miles equal to the day of the month. So on the 1st you run 1 mile, on the 2nd you run 2 miles, all the way up to the 30th or 31st where you run 30 or 31 miles. And I'd done that challenge back in April of 2020. Jesse Itzler was one of the persons that had inspired me to do it because it was COVID, there were no races, and so he was posting about it and getting a bunch of people to do it with him virtually. So I did it back then, and I remember coming out of that challenge, and a buddy of mine, Joe Dixon, to this day, he's the one that planted the seed. He called me soft for doing it on a 30-day month instead of a 31-day month. And so just in the back, and he was just busting my chain, but it always sat in the back of my head of like, I'm gonna prove you wrong, man. So this March or April of 2023 or May of 2023, I started on a year-long journey to do it every month for a full year.
That was nuts.
Yeah.
And the fact that in February you doubled down.
Yeah.
And you did in and out.
I had
someone commented.
Well, I made a comment. Treadmill Tony died very quickly. But I was kind of making fun of people online who ran on the treadmills in the winter because I'm a big outdoor runner.
Yeah.
I used to have a beard. It would turn to ice and just embracing the outdoor.
Yeah. And
the treadmill runners took offense to that.
Very much.
Came after me and said I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So I had to double down. There's a thing with me. If you tell me I can't do something, I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Do it. Yeah. So on the 28th day of February, you ran 28 miles outside, 28 miles inside.
Yes.
On the 27th day, 27 in, 27 out.
Yep. And don't forget it was leap year, so there's 29
days.
just a little extra there for you.
So how many miles did you run in the month of February?
Ended up being 874 miles. Yeah, I was ranked 4th in the world in Strava, and the only 3 people that beat me had like 2,200 miles because...
Are they bots?
Yeah, they have to.
They have to be driving around.
They have to be.
There's no way. They're just trying to be at the top of Strava.
Yeah, it's insane.
Because you must have been running all day, every day.
Every day. I was like, this is all I'm doing all day. How is anybody topping this?
So. I mean, and you had some slow paces in there, obviously. Yeah. When you run 50 miles and then 52 miles and then 54 miles, like 13 minutes is still... pretty fast.
It's moving. It's moving. I know I'm not putting down some competitive paces, but it was torturous in there.
Yeah.
It was not fun
I can only imagine.
for many moments.
All right, should we hit the sauna?
Let's hit it.
Let's hit it.
Oh.
Do you want to dunk? Are you a dunker? No,
I'm not a dunker.
You're not a dunker?
I'm not a dunker.
I may dunk. Just to show you that.
Show me the dunk.
Look at this. Look at this mess that you've
Dude,
created.
I'm sorry.
I don't. You want to also just put it down like this? You can just toss it right there. How about that?
Oh my god.
And then I'll just click stop recording here. How many like random comments do you get on your stuff? From like people you've never met, don't know?
All the time. All the time.
Just jabronis who are kind of at home, sitting behind their computer.
I got a lot
checking out Mark Dowdle's YouTube.
I got a lot of people in my
you have a ton of
DMs.
haters.
Yeah, a lot. I would say a lot, but there was a significant amount during the February challenge of making fun of treadmill people,
Yes.
and then when I really switched over to using non-alcoholic beer for the beer miles,
Okay.
people had a lot to say about that. People that had never obviously done a beer mile,
Yeah.
because for those who have done it know that there's a certain point where the beer no longer takes effect until after the race. Once you start dropping down to like 7:30, you're not feeling the beer until after the race.
I mean, you're chugging 4 beers in 6 minutes.
Yeah, you go do that and run, and then tell
Or
me.
don't run.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Yeah, just sit
chug
there.
4 beers in 6 minutes and tell me how you feel after.
Well, just the logic behind it. It's like if the goal was to get drunk, then the whole challenge would be drink 4 beers, wait 10 minutes, and then run a mile.
Right.
Like if that was the goal.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but that's not the goal.
You know,
the goal is not to get drunk.
people love to have opinions on things they've never done before.
Haters are the loudest.
Yes, of course, of course.
Yeah. So you just switched to non-alcoholic just because you didn't want to get drunk anymore. But I feel like you were doing like IPAs and like you were doing thick beers.
I was doing thick
I was
beers.
always questioning your beer choice. I was like, why doesn't he just do Coors Light or like Busch?
So the beer mile, official beer mile rules are it's got to be 5% or 5.1% or higher.
Okay.
I don't know why they have that rule. It doesn't make sense.
It just
to me.
can't be a light beer.
It just so anything like Coors Light, Bud Light, Miller Light, none of those would
none
work.
Of those count.
So I just I like IPAs. They're like an all-day IPA. That's a good beer mile beer. Blue Moon is actually the best because it's light and it gets above that alcohol content threshold. But I was starting to rip like 2 or 3 of these challenges a week.
Right.
And
so you're just getting drunk
I don't
2 or
need
3 times a week.
And it's like it's a wild drunk. Like it comes on fast. And
then you got to drive home or
then you gotta
run
drive
home or whatever it is.
And, thankfully, I had Lucy there to drive me home for the ones that I did. But then, because we talked about this during a run of like when you get into making content, that process of learning how to edit takes so much longer because you don't know what you're doing. So everything takes so much longer.
It's all you're YouTubing everything.
Yes.
Like, what do I want to do? How do I do it?
What's the shortcut for cutting? Like,
Right.
how do I not go to file cut?
Right.
So editing the beer mile videos from long form to short form, that whole process would take like 3 hours. And
that's a long time.
doing that drunk made it last even longer because
Yeah.
I just couldn't focus. So
And then you see it the next day and you're like,
what
I was drunk when I did that.
I'm not gonna go back to the drawing board on
Yeah.
this one.
so what were some of the comments that like stick out to you? Do you remember any of them in specific?
I mean, a lot of like, NA isn't real beer. You're cheating.
And were these ever from anyone that you knew, or were these always random?
No, and I embrace the hate, and so I was just trolling them back.
Yeah.
And I made some edgy comments that I won't speak of here, but then
can get edgier.
my friends would like start to get involved, and they would start trolling me just to rile up people.
Yeah. Yeah, wasn't Treadmill Tony your mom?
No, Treadmill Tony was me.
Oh.
I made that separate account, and I think I told somebody that it's my mom or something. But no, that was me. I still have that account. And Treadmill Tony might come back this winter.
Treadmill Tony should definitely come back.
Come back from the dead.
Right. Did he ever amass any sort of following, or?
I think he's got like 50 followers.
Let's go.
50 followers.
Let's go.
A lot of people that I don't know if they, if they're following him because they know it's a joke or they are trying to get on the side of the Treadmill Nation.
Yeah.
Big T, baby.
Big T. We got to go down with Big T.
Big T's got to go down.
What is it with the beef with treadmills? It's just you just want people to get outside?
Yeah, I think it's more of like what was funny is I'd make these videos that would be calling out and making fun of and like doing it in a joking way. But then if you read the caption's where you actually got to know what I thought.
Yeah. And
the caption was like, just my hope is that you get outside and learn to have fun and explore winter running, because winter running is beautiful, especially after a fresh snow. Even if it's like -5 degrees and it's way too cold out, if you put on the right gear and layer up, you'll be just fine.
Stick your face in snow.
Stick your face in snow. Enjoy it. But I think just like I go to Planet Fitness for that February challenge, and people are walking on the treadmill and just texting or scrolling on social media or watching a movie or watching a TV show. And I get it. There's times where you need to, zone out the world because you didn't want to be at the gym in the first place and you're just trying to get there and get in the rhythm and get in the habit of doing it. But I think, it's kind of some part of the problem I have with like run clubs and what they've transformed into. It's like,
don't you host a run club?
I host an anti-run club run club. It's everything. We stand against everything that run clubs stand for. But they've just they've turned into like dating profile or like dating apps, like and like I get it. Like everyone, the counter to that people get upset with me. They're like, you should just be happy that people are getting out to run. Like this is getting more people into running. And the reason I accept that in some ways and reject that in other ways is because I look at getting people into running over the long period of their life and using it as a way to get healthier, get in shape, express yourself, have freedom in that, get rid of pain, suffering, depression, all these things. And I feel like when people get into it because there's like this very specific reason, when that no longer serves them, are they still going to be running?
So like if they're going to this running club to meet someone, like you think as like a dating, right? Yeah. That's kind of what you mentioned.
Because they're promoting
then once
it
they
like
get
that.
the girlfriend, then they're not going to run anymore.
Yeah. Or if they just get sick of it because they've slept around with too many people at that run club. Like, is it actually serving them anymore?
There's a pretty popular run club in Minneapolis. I don't know what it's called. They run by that bridge.
Is it I know of a few.
Mile something mile. I don't know.
I forget the name of it.
So your run club is the anti-run club run club.
It's the anti-run club at Embrace North.
When do you guys run?
We run every Friday at 4:30 p.m. We're thinking about adjusting the time because some people are coming from work.
Okay.
But we don't really post about it. I try and make announcements just so people know that it's happening.
Okay.
But there's no like group photo after. There's no stretching. There's no like, what's your name? What's your relationship status?
Yeah.
It's just like we meet at Embrace North and we go run.
Okay.
And that's what it is.
And how many people are involved?
We, lowest number, we had 4 people one time. The highest number, we'll get like 20 people.
Okay.
So it's not like this, we're not getting hundreds of people, but we're not like...
Running with 4 people is great.
It's honestly better.
Yes.
You get to know the group way better that way.
100%.
So...
Running in groups just in general is better. Like even our run, I feel like that 3 miles seemed way easier because we were just going.
Yeah.
and talking, and then all of a sudden you've gone 3 miles and you're like, I could have gone another 50.
Yeah. That's why when you texted me and you said you want to get a run in before, I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I've been struggling to get out the door lately, and I knew that if we ran together, it was like, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah. So how many marathons have you ran?
Official marathons?
Official, unofficial.
The unofficial is, I don't know.
Yeah, because you ran,
like with
the calendar club, how many did you ran?
One a month.
Tons.
One 26-mile run a month, but then every day after was
5,
more than that.
Right. So you were running 4 or 5 a month.
Yeah.
If not more than that.
I think, 4, 5, 6, I don't know. Official marathons, 2.
2, okay.
And these 2 marathons probably, they kind of circle back to what we talked about earlier, is how I've thought about running and how I've grown through it and my perspective on it. The first time I did it was the first running event I ever did. Just after I graduated college. Didn't do much training for it, but I had this idea that I had to get a sub 3. And
sub 3 hours.
Sub 3 hour. That was the ego talking more than the rational mind, because
which
sub 3 is insane.
Yeah, which average per mile is
I'm not even sure.
5 flat?
No, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that. I think like 2:45 is a 5 flat.
Okay.
I think sub 3 is probably around a 7-minute mile.
Oh, okay.
Which is
doable,
but really hard. You got to actually train for that.
Yeah.
And I got a 3. I think it was like 3:33. So a pretty decent marathon. But it was hell. It sucked.
Yeah.
I hated every step,
dude.
And it didn't make me like want to enjoy running any more than it did. And then 2 years later, I went back and did Twin Cities again, and I ran a 4:45. So not like an hour and 15 minutes slower.
Yeah.
And
but you
I put on a button-up shirt. I was waving. I wanted to give as much energy to the crowd as they were giving me.
Yeah.
And so high-fiving people, saying thank you to people. I drank a couple beers along the course because people are handing out beer to runners. And I had so much freaking fun on that one before, in comparison to that first one.
Okay.
Because the focus wasn't like, this is successful if I run this time.
Right.
Which I think...
It's just, I want to be done.
Yeah, I just
want to do it and enjoy it. Yeah.
And then if I got that sub 3, it's like, okay, I ticked that off. In the same way that I have contention with the run clubs for going for a specific reason, it's like, if I got that sub 3, would I have continued on? Because I checked off the slicks, or it served the purpose that I was looking for it to serve.
And it was never, like, the purpose was never to run super competitively, I guess?
No, yeah.
But you are competitive, so I guess
in some regards,
it kind of is.
Yeah.
Because now you're doing competitive beer miles.
Yep.
But you just didn't want to be a competitive marathon runner.
For sure. I want to... My goal in running is I want to be running at 85 years old.
Yeah.
You know? And I think whatever gets me there...
I don't know, dude. Running 800 miles in a month, you gotta have some bad knees.
I don't know, man. My knees are pretty good. My knees are pretty good.
That's a lot. You must do a lot of stretching. You must take really good care of your body. A lot of cold plunges.
A lot of cold plunges. I do those. I do those.
Yes. Good. Yeah, I don't know. We're probably at 15 minutes. Should we hit another song round?
Let's do it.
Or do you got anything before we hit round 3? Anything you want to leave the people with before round 3? Are we going to dunk? Are we going to do anything?
We can dunk. Let's dunk.
Let's dunk it up, dude. Especially I got to show off what this Bauer Hour hat can withstand. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's nice.
So I actually have a question for you.
Yeah.
In this round 3. I obviously don't know you very well, but from what I know about you, you're mentally sharp. You're clearly in shape. You've got a lot of energy. You've got 3 kids. You've got a family, a wife, a couple houses, that you're managing. How do you keep it all together? Like, what's your centerpiece to all of these different things that you got going on in your life that you value?
Living in the present. Being where your feet are all the time. Worrying about what's in front of you, not like what's going on outside of where you're at. Like focusing on the now, especially with parenting. Parenting gets the toughest when you're thinking about what else you should be doing. Like, oh, I could be doing a million different things at work. I could be editing. I could be doing whatever. And that's when you start to get really stressed out as a parent because you're getting pulled by your kids. Daddy, I want to do this. Daddy, I want to do that. But then you're thinking about what else you could be doing in work and everything. And it just causes this chaos in your brain. And I feel like that's like, those are the times that like I get angry. And that's the worst, is when you get angry with your kids. You never feel good about it. You always regret it. But I will say sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes kids need to be yelled at in order to listen, and it sucks. It sucks so much because you ask them 1,000 times to do the exact same thing and they don't do it, and then you yell and they do it and you're like, oh, I just don't want to have to do that.
Yeah.
Or you have to use a different tone or whatever it is. But I think it's so important just in general to be where your feet are and like deal with the conversation at hand. Have that conversation now, worry about the other conversations later. Like right now I'm late to a meeting, right? But it is what it is, because like this was my focus point for the day. The meeting was, you know, kind of the secondary, and that's just how life works. I can catch up on the meeting at some point, right?
Yeah.
I want to do this.
Yeah. So when you said be present, be in the moment, is there something you do when chaos is happening that gets you there? Like, what does that look like?
Talk to the big man upstairs. That guy always grounds you. Whenever I'm like getting in front or behind, thinking about the future or the past, I just try and I try and stop and, you know, focus on my faith, which like I don't necessarily go to church every Sunday, but I know there is a higher being up there. I know there's something, like we're not just here talking to each other for no reason. Like there's no way.
This isn't just like an accident.
This isn't an accident. No way. There's something out there.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but you know, talking to whatever is out there and just asking to be present and asking to keep my mind where I'm at, and like help me calm down, whether if I'm getting riled up, or, you know, gain energy if I'm feeling tired or whatever it is. I think that always sets me into the present. Yeah. It's tough to be present, dude.
Yeah.
It's, you know, like with when you're posting content and like you're getting tons of likes and comments and all that stuff, like you got to be on your phone 8 hours a day?
I have, so like you said in my bio, it's like currently resting.
Yeah.
I have taken a break from getting on there and checking, you know, I'm trying to, so I have recently been more in touch with my faith.
Yeah.
Getting back into, like, you know, I grew up Catholic, went to a Jesuit high school, went to a Catholic college, never read the Bible in my life, never cared for it, never really had a relationship with God. And I've been getting more into that ever since this run, and that has been something that's grounded me. So when you say the man upstairs, that's what I do when times like that have happened, and just in my free time, because whatever you think about in your free time is the thing is your God.
What do you mean?
So when you're driving, or you're standing in line at the grocery store, or you're in the shower, whatever you think about in your free time, that's the thing that has the most control over you.
Right.
So if I'm, you know, if we're sitting here and you're worrying about something else, or you're driving your car and you're worrying about something else, or like thinking about like, how many likes did I get on this video? That controls me.
Right.
And so I've thought a lot about that, And ever since I've incorporated faith in God into those conversations and that free time, I don't even care what's happening on social media.
Isn't that powerful?
Yeah, it is. So, and then when you were talking in the sauna, you had that friend who was on the podcast who biked and he didn't
do any social media.
And in my mind, I'm like, I bet you he had the best fucking experience.
Oh, 100%.
Because
the richest experience.
Mine's tainted by posting content.
Yeah, there's editing content
while I'm running. Like
right.
I'm missing out on an experience because I'm trying to capture the experience. So it's just funny how that works.
And do you think about that as you're editing and commenting back or whatever it is? You're just like, I should be enjoying this sunset that I'm running at, even though I'm 35 miles into this run.
Yes.
And that's tough. It's tough. It's so hard because there's so much opportunity out there, and you start to realize that as you continue to get older, right? That there's opportunity everywhere you look. And when you look at your phone, there's also opportunity around every corner. How can I make money doing this? How can I build a brand doing this? How can I do whatever? So feeling like, you're a competitive guy, so feeling like you're missing out on an advantage is like probably pretty tough for you.
Yes, very, very much.
Where you're like, I gotta, I want to edit while I'm running because I want to get this out there and I want to find a new opportunity.
Yes.
Whatever it is. So one thing that we've kind of talked a lot about today is sponsorships and like how you're kind of looking for a sponsor. I guess one thing that I haven't asked you is what sort of, like, if you had an ideal brand out there that you could align with, what would it be?
Ideal brand. One that I would love to work with is Athletic Brewing. It's a non-alcoholic beer company.
Are they in Minnesota?
They are not in Minnesota. They have a production facility in San Diego, and they've got a tap room. I think it's a tap room production facility out in Connecticut.
Okay.
But I just love what they're doing in terms of, they have this phrase like living without compromise.
Yeah.
And trying to incorporate a full-bodied experience with their full-bodied beer that's non-alcoholic. So that's definitely a company that I would love to work with. And it just, because I think it, in the same ways that we talked about the marathon and, some of the other things we've talked about, like taking it at your pace, where I think like they're all about taking it at your own pace, but like going at it. Like if you're saying you're going to do something, go do it. It doesn't matter if it takes you, 2 years, 3 years to get to 100 episodes or 6 months. If you said you're going to do it, finish the job.
Exactly.
And I think there's all these distractions, there's all these ways that we can wrap into, get pulled in one way or another. And so I think that,
You think that their motto kind of aligns with your mottos?
Yeah.
And like that would be sweet if you got just a non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah.
To just crush while
Athletic
you're doing
Brewing,
beer.
come on.
Yeah, let's go. Athletic Brewing. We'll tag them.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we clip that and tag them. I've actually never had Athletic Brewing, so I don't exactly know what it's like, but I would imagine it's
tasty.
Decent. Yeah.
It's tasty. It's good for those beer miles.
That's got to be your favorite one to do during the beer miles then, right?
Yeah.
So you also said that you have a new structure to your beer miles coming up.
Yes.
Can we explain the new structure?
Yes. So I did my first one this past Sunday with the St. Thomas lacrosse team. So for those who don't know, Beat My Beer Miles, a race series I created where I go head-to-head with college athletes to determine if they can run a faster mile than my beer mile.
You've practiced that.
I've got that locked and loaded. I've done it so many times. So I've done like 30 of those, if not more. And so I, either run to a college or have college players at St. Thomas come, we race, and it's epic. And then after 30 of those, I was kind of getting bored because it was the same thing over and over again, and wasn't really seeing the growth as far as like my creativity.
Okay.
Or one of the things I was incorporating was I would do a 1-lap warm-up where we would just walk around the track and I'd have a chance to interview them. But there's only so much you can talk about in
5 minutes.
Not even
2 minutes.
Yeah, so it's just like I wanted to find a way to go deeper into not just the athlete story, but what that athlete is a part of, because yes, you are one person, but you're also a part of this family, and you as an individual says a lot, but it also says a lot about like how those characteristics that you embody get implemented into the family or implemented into the culture, and how you're either attributing or contributing to the betterment of that team in whatever way you have.
Right.
So I wanted to dive into the stories of the players and the cultures and the coaches. And so this Saturday I did the first knockout version, where I went to practice, did filming of the practice, and took some interviews. And then at the end of practice, as they're conditioning, it was a full team beer mile, where I did the beer mile and every other athlete ran a mile. And if I passed a player at any point during the race, they were out. So I think there were 30 players during the race. There were 7 left at the end of the race, but I had a drone there.
Oh, sweet.
And it's got some epic shots.
Yeah.
And 3 that I've seen so far were cutting corners on the track and shortcutted each lap. So,
Cheaters
Cheaters
are the worst.
So
come on.
As of right now, 4 people have beat me. I have to go back and review the tape to see if they all cheated or those 4 were good. But I was so busy when I saw that
there's a drone.
It was like, I actually don't know if they did or not. Wow. But I was so disappointed. Not just, because I lost them, but it's like, this team, I played there, and they haven't won since my senior year back in 2019. And one of their big emphases has been conditioning and doing things right. They've gone to the national championship 2 or 3 times and lost in the national championship. And it's like, that right there is why you're not winning.
Everything that goes against what you're preaching.
Yes. So
like everything that the program...
We'll see if they're freshmen or they're transfers or they've been there a while.
Probably
either
transfers.
way,
probably JUCO transfers.
Yeah, probably.
Those guys, JUCO transfers always have a brain of their own. They're always the ones with like the 2.1 GPAs, skipping class.
We got to get them right. Fall ball is the time to do that.
Yeah. What about this run that you did from Chicago to Windsor?
Yeah, so I ran. I ran from Chicago to Windsor, 456 miles to the Beer Mile World Classic in Windsor, Ontario. And along the way, I competed against 2 college athletes, one at GVSU, college lacrosse player there, and then a little variation of the knockout version with a Michigan State lacrosse player and 2 of his buddies that played elsewhere.
Okay.
But yeah, ran over the course of 16 days, pulled everything in my stroller behind me, had gear, camera gear, running gear, change of clothes, a sleeping bag, and a tent. And slept in local parks.
Tent no poles.
Tent no poles. That was a rough start. How do you forget the poles?
Was that just one night? Or was that
2 nights.
A couple nights?
2 nights. So
2 nights, no poles.
2 nights, no poles. The first night I stayed at my aunt and uncle's in Lake Forest, and then I had 2 nights of no poles. And golly, it was bad. It was rough.
Is your aunt and uncle? Is that the video that you have when you were on like the news, the local news?
No.
What was that video? You
Which
were on
one?
some local news guy videotaped. You slept in his backyard or something.
So that was in Wallaceburg, Ontario.
Did you just run into that guy?
So this is a wild story. This is a wild story. So Doug and Joni, who we talked about earlier, who were biking across, we took the ferry over. We made a plan to meet at the brewery that night to grab a beer and food. Ended up only meeting Doug because Joni was doing laundry. And so Doug and I spent an hour and a half there. having beer, having pizza, and at the end of the conversation, I was like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. When I come back, let's take a picture and we'll part ways. We'll both be on our journeys. And as I come out of the bathroom, Doug is talking to two gentlemen at the bar. And they happen to be the radio show owners of the radio show in Wallaceburg and then two other radio stations in Ontario. And he was just telling them about what they were doing and what I was doing and how we met. And so they're like, we have to record this. Like, we have to broadcast this out to the people of Wallaceburg. So we go to the radio station that night.
No.
Well, we got a couple beers in us, and we do that. And Greg, who is the radio host, he's like, "You're sleeping at my house tonight." And so I slept in his backyard.
I
slept in his backyard. You
didn't have a bed or a couch?
No, he offered his bed. He offered a couch.
Backyard.
I chose the backyard because, for me, I'd done it for the last 15 days. I was comfortable with it. The issue with sleeping outside in the tent isn't so much the comfortability of it, it's the mental of like, am I gonna get woken up? So it's like my brain never fully shuts off because it's constantly worrying about if some weird guy is gonna come up, or a police officer or something like that.
You're not strapped, are you?
No.
Do you carry any sort of like knife or like?
I don't.
Just your powerful fists.
Just your feet can do magical things. Your feet can get you away from a lot. Not really running through bear country.
If you run or if you kick.
Yeah, one or the other. You know, if you got to fight, you got to fight. But I think Jocko Willink said this: if your first reaction should be to get as far away from the dangerous situation as possible. If that's not possible, you got to fight. You got to fight. But
you can always kick someone in the nards.
That's
kick
true.
him in the stomach. I think a stomach punch is kind of the way to go. If you're ever going to fight someone, everyone goes for the face. I feel like that's tough.
Yeah.
One, that's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Like, your knuckles are going to hurt after you hit someone in the face.
Is good.
A kick, great. Yeah, I don't have flexibility in my groin, so I can't kick much. I'd have to do like a knee kick. But I feel like a nice gut punch would be just a good way to start, or a possibility for me to win. I've never been in a fight outside of the time that I was jumped, but that's neither here nor there. Have you been in a fight ever?
No.
No fist to fist, no combat action.
No combat action.
No button heads with another football player.
No, we were the football crew was definitely involved in a lot of scuffles in college. Definitely.
Football players have a lot of testosterone.
A lot of testosterone, and but I was too drunk in college to even get to that point. I became a zombie mode.
Really?
Yeah. I just end up Ubering home because I'd just be like falling asleep, blacked out.
Man.
So
do you still drink like that?
No.
I mean, you're doing NA beer miles.
That's part of the reason. That's part of the reason one of the reasons I chose NAs is because like running is the thing that got me out of drinking that.
Yeah.
And what I recognize is I was drinking that way because in football, it's like you go out on Saturday and you just release all your anger that you've been bottling up from the last week. Not knowing how to process it. Life's hard, school's hard, you're going through a lot. So I bottled that up and I took it out on game day. And then went out and boozed and would wake up the next morning full of regret of just like, I wish I didn't drink that much. But instead of processing it, gets bottled right back up. Spend the week, take it out on Saturday.
Do it again. Repeat the thing that you do not like to do.
Yes.
Why do humans work the way that we do?
Lack of information.
Lack of information. You think that's
information? I think it's lack of information and maybe the experience or exposure to give it a try.
Or the feeling of missing out.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of why people can't stop drinking.
Missing out, but they don't see missing out in the other way. Like missing out on the life they could be having.
without it.
Yes.
Right.
Which people should be in FOMO of that more so than the FOMO of not going out and getting blasted.
100%. Life begins to be much more. So you asked me, like, what's the biggest thing that I've noticed?
Yeah.
Since I stopped drinking? Life begins to be more pure. Like, everything feels pure. You feel like I felt like I was continually being discredited by alcohol. Like, if I was funny or if I was serious or whatever it was, if there was alcohol involved, it discredited everything. It discredited my jokes. It discredited my wit or whatever it is.
Is that because you felt like it wasn't you?
Or the people that I was around felt like it was, oh, he's funny because the alcohol was involved, or she only said that smart thing because there was alcohol that loosened up his brain. And I was, honestly, that was a big part of why I stopped drinking, is because I continually felt like I was being discredited. And I was like, I don't need booze. I don't need booze to make me feel good. I don't need booze to have a conversation. Like, I do this all the time with people on my podcast, so why don't I just stop? And then I just stopped. There was no, like, really tipping point. I might have had, like, a couple drinks 3 nights in a row, but there was no real tipping point. It was just, like, finally clicked. I had seen a few other people stop drinking. I had seen what it had done to their bodies. And I was like, I have goals in life that I want to achieve, and all drinking is doing is setting me back from those goals. It's taking away time, it's taking away effort, it's taking away brain power. And you listed off quite a few different things that I'm involved in, and I can't be involved in that many things and be socializing with alcohol and whatever. So I guess I just kind of went on a tangent. I don't even know where I was going there, but that's why I don't drink. And that's why I am present.
Yeah. It all works together.
It all works together. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
What started that was like the fear of missing out. What would you have had to tell yourself in the times where you were using alcohol and socializing in that way? Like, is there anything that you could have said to yourself back then with the perspective you have today that made that switch earlier? Or do you think it just happened at the time it was supposed to happen and you wouldn't have even listened?
That's a good point, and that's probably the truest point. And that's what I probably would have answered that if you wouldn't have said that. But what I would go back and tell myself is that you're going to be a much cooler person without it. Like, people are gonna feel more genuity from you. People are gonna feel your presence more. You're not gonna be discredited as much. You're not gonna be laughed at. You're gonna be laughed with. And you're gonna get in shape quicker. Like, my body changed so fast. I lost 20 pounds within the first 30 days, and then I lost another 10 pounds since then. And it's just, my recovery's faster, my brain is sharper. It's a world of a difference. And I've said this a few different times, but I don't know if there's a world where I use alcohol again. I could eat my words at some point, like when my kids are out of the house or something like that, and I'm not exactly sure, but I don't see any real benefit for me in my situation. For other people, it is what it is. I'm not gonna discredit people who use alcohol. I'm not gonna make people feel the way that I felt when I was using, but I think that everyone, if you stopped drinking for 30 days, you would notice substantial changes to where if you weren't all in on not drinking, you would probably be teeter-tottering, I think I want to do another 30 days.
Yeah.
And then once you do another 30 days, you might do another 30.
Yeah.
But
once you're at that 30 days, it's you're already there.
You're already there.
Might as well go another 30 more.
Right, yeah. But that also could be totally just me. There could be some people that go 30 days and they're like, that was the hardest thing ever. Like, I can't wait to, yeah, let's get wasted. Let's throw a freaking party. But yeah, it's cool. And like, when you're drinking with kids, your kids know when you're not there, when you're on alcohol or whatever, when you're drunk. They may not say it and they may not be able to articulate it, but they can see it in your eyes. And that's almost worse because then you know that they know.
Yeah.
And it's like that whole paranoid thing.
Yeah.
Like, I know they know. Do they know that I know that they know? But yeah, I don't know. That's my words of wisdom. We're probably 20, 30 minutes in this round. So this is a good round 3.
Yeah.
Do you have any wise words of wisdom that you want to leave the people with? Any mottos that you live by? Any anything?
Yeah. I guess a few things. The first would be there's a motto that I started out running with after that first marathon that I've still held to, that's consistent to the things that we've talked about today, is 10-minute mile way of life. 10-minute mile way of life. For me, at that time, 10-minute mile pace was like super slow. I had to force myself to slow down. Nowadays, 10-minute miles fast for me because I'm running so slow. But that mindset of you got to slow down. Oftentimes in life, slowing down allows you to make clear decisions, have a better perspective on things, have more honest and humble conversations, and you can create, a better life for yourself. That's what I believe. That's what I've done with myself. So if you feel kind of out of whack, or you feel sped up or anxious about things, a lot of times the best thing is just to slow down. The other thing is, I have found a lot of peace through my faith recently, and I don't know exactly what or where that's going to take me, but I encourage anybody that feels lost or lonely and is trying to fill a void. This has been the thing that has felt the most peaceful. I think early on I was filling a void with drinking, and then it transitioned to filling it with running, and running's a healthier alternative, but you get to a certain point where then it turns into something more, like likes, views, followers, accomplishments, recognition, and where I found the most peace is recognition goes to him. So I just end on that.
Best times to do that: in the morning right when you wake up, and at night before you go to bed.
100%.
Those are the best times to be grounded. And don't be afraid to talk about it, right? Sometimes people are, especially if you're new to it, it's tough to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, hey, like I've kind of been, getting into my faith a little bit. Like, people think that if you're so far away from faith for so long, like you can't get back into it. But like, faith is welcoming, the church is welcoming, God is welcoming. They always want you to come back. Like, so if you are feeling stuck, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Reach out, talk to God.
Yeah.
He's always willing to listen.
He wants to listen.
Are you cold yet?
I am cold.
I've been like shivering for the last 5 minutes. I think I'm gonna dunk one more time. End on a dunk, and we'll wrap this baby up.
The dunk.
Let's go. I think that's the longest, cold plunge. Dude, I was like, does he notice
That I'm shooting.